Welcome to the Timescales. I'm Grego, your host. Today we have a very special guest, musician, DJ, and the music supervisor and composer at Vertigo Films, the extraordinary Lowell Hammond. Hello, Mr. Hammond.
Hello, Grego. I love the extraordinary. That's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It applies.
Great. Yeah. It's great to be with you tonight. It's great to be with you.
Okay,
Well, not here, but not obviously tonight there. You're different.
Yeah, it's 11 here. So it's
Late
evening.
morning.
So this interview is being conducted in the United States and the United Kingdom. Are you in England?
Yes, I'm in England. I'm in South London, Grego. Yeah, speaking
Greg. It's Greg.
Oh, I just use Greg. Yeah. South London, Greg. I mean,
okay.
Sunny South London.
So what's it? Oh, you say it's sunny there?
Well, it was. It was.
Not right now.
It was earlier. It's gone 7 o'clock. So it's dampening down now. It's getting a bit sunset. Yeah, it starts getting dark.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit overcast here today, and we're enjoying the late the late coolness.
Yeah, a couple of days ago I did a Zoom actually with someone based in LA, Santa Monica, manager of mine, and it must be a first. It was real blazing sunshine here, and it was pelting with rain. It was we both thought it was he's an English guy, and we both thought it was quite amusing because it doesn't usually happen that way around, does it?
Yeah. Santa Monica's got some beautiful beaches. It actually, believe it or not, it actually snowed on the beach down there a couple of months ago. Yeah, that was definitely not normal.
That's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I got a couple of pals who live out there actually in Santa Monica, which is nice.
Okay. Well, I'm really happy to be able to catch up to you today, because as you know, I've been enjoying your music. I get good vibes from it, and what's interesting is that when you start to write your own songs, it seems like to me it really makes you learn to appreciate and pay attention to the structures of songs that have been created by other people. And I've been paying very close attention to your music and enjoying it, and I thank you. And it seems that you and I have something in common in that we're both DJs. I had introduced myself as Grego, which is just basically a habit. That's my radio DJ name, Grego. And with my real name being Greg. Now, you are also a DJ, but there are two types of DJs. One that plays music on the radio, and then one who plays music as a performance. And I believe that you are a performing DJ as well.
Yeah, I'm more of that ilk. I have done radio stuff, but yeah, I've been DJing. I started making electronic music at sort of 1991, and I was more the musician. Well, I am a musician, and my partner in this band we did in the 90s for the drum club. He was a DJ, in fact. So I didn't DJ at first. He was more DJ, and I was so he was the DJ, and I was the musician. And then I just got more into it. So I came to the party quite late. So I started sort of DJing, I guess, sort of from the mid-90s. And I really got into it at one point. I was playing a different country every weekend and that. But lately, I probably play once a month or so. I love playing at parties because obviously I work in a film and TV. I play a lot of premiere parties and fashion parties and birthday parties. I do love a party, but I don't really chase it because, I suppose I'm probably more in the studio than that. But I do still love it. I do still love it, Greg.
Okay. And you, before we started recording, you were mentioning you just did a birthday party. What was it last night?
Yeah. It's great. I play weddings and all my friends. Yeah, because a lot of my friends love electronic dance music, so they sort of brought me to play their sort of weddings and birthday parties, and I love that. It was just I like those the small ones, just sort of 100 people. It's a nice little venue. I still enjoy playing very much. I mean, it's not my sort of main thing these days, but I would miss it if I didn't do it, Greg.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, here's you. I'm not going to ask you a lot of broad, open-ended questions, but this is one of them right here.
Oh,
In a nutshell, who is Lowell Hammond?
oh bless. So I suppose, yeah, yeah. Like a lot of characters these days, I notice for a lot of the sort of modern musician, they tend to have not just one thing, you know. So I'd say I was a musician, producer, composer, you know, because yeah, and a lot of the films I work on, as you know, I sort of do music supervision and composition, which is quite rare actually. I don't really know anyone in the UK really who does that, to be honest with you. I'm sure there is. Someone's going to tell me now, but that's, that's quite rare. So some films I'm just the supervisor, some films I'm the composer, and invariably a lot of films I do both. And so it's really exciting. But yeah, yeah. So there's a few strands, and I still make music as an artist, and I'm always doing bits and pieces. I mean, under my own name or collaborations, all sorts of different people. I just done an album with the main guy from Alabama 3. Do you know that band? I suppose the big thing is they do the theme for The Sopranos, the TV show. Woke up this morning. I don't know if you know. I just done an
Mm-hmm.
album with him, Larry Love, really talented character, great singer, lyricist. So I'm doing some soul a couple of years ago of Heather Small and people. Lots of different collaborations. I love collaborating, Greg. I don't know if you like that. I do like working with other people, and yeah, it just keeps it interesting. Keeps it new projects. So on the Ray Liotta, as you know, I've just done Ray Liotta's last film. I was working Dangerous Waters, it's coming out worldwide August.
And what
Working
was
with
the name of that again?
yeah, Dangerous Waters, directed by a guy based, yes, in LA, Santa
Mm-hmm.
Monica, called John Barr. It's his second film. He's known as primarily as a cinema photographer, but fantastic director. So this is his second film he's directed. Yeah, great. So those guys, yeah, one of the producers in LA, one's in the UK here. Great chap, Ben Jacks. But so yeah, a couple of guys from LA on that. But the guy I collaborated with on that, fantastic soul gospel singer, a really good artist called Lewis Van Johnson. So it's just exciting. It's just what all projects need different people, and I think I've got a really good pool, a really good team. We've got a lot of real talent here in London, like I'm sure where you are too. So it's great to be able to spread it around and work with all these different, really exciting artists. You know.
Something I want to ask you. As you know, this interview series is based on teaching others to learn key elements of success of people that have been successful in areas that they may be interested in. And
Sure.
with you being a music writer and a composer, and working on movies and albums such as you have, at some
Sure.
point in the future, someone will look at this video to learn from you. And what I'm wondering is, uh, I think I already know the answer to this. Is music basically everything that you think about from the time you get up in the morning until when you go to bed?
Um, yeah, it is often. I know,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Everyone around me is always having a go at me because I sort of, from my kids to everybody, there's always saying, "No, come back, come back." I'm known as well for tapping people at my leg or someone else's leg. Actually, I'm always tapping out rhythms. I'm not a drummer, but obviously I'm a DJ and I love rhythm and programming drum machines, and that's so I'm always tapping. Uh, so yes,
Okay.
I do think to go off, Greg. I'm always thinking, and I write a lot. I love writing lyrics as well, so I'm often in bongo land thinking, and I actually dream music. It's bonkers. I actually I write tunes in my sleep, and I so often I can't remember them, but I'm sort of putting them together, you know, especially arrangements.
Okay.
So we are quite what's it? quite a novel breed, aren't we? I remember I was working with a singer, and he just said, well, a couple of guys said we live in our imaginations a lot. So, but I do try to keep some reality around me, Greg. I'm sure you do as well. I mean, kids are
Yeah,
great, aren't they?
yeah.
And I've got loads of buddies, mates that that are not nutty musicians or actors or writers and directors. It's good hanging out with people. So I try and keep it. Yeah.
You
It's
know,
yeah,
the what you said about dreaming music, I actually had a terrible disaster happen last week. I heard the most beautiful song that I've ever heard in my life with real clarity, with the tempo and everything in a dream. And then
yeah.
I woke up and ran downstairs to go to the computer to try to write it down and lost it. And I have not been able to remember that. Have now you said that music will come to you in dreams. Have
Yeah.
you ever woken up and immediately recorded what you had been
Uh,
thinking about?
in a word, no, I
Okay.
haven't. I get what you mean. I know friends, songwriters, who literally sleep with a pen and pad
Mm-hmm.
next to them. I know quite a few people that do that. Uh, no, but I always play piano and guitar. They're my two main instruments, guitar first and piano. I always play them in the morning. So I often wake up, and get straight on and start playing if I've got something going on there. But yeah, I grab an instrument straight away in the morning and try and sort of remember. But yeah, it's very annoying if they can just appear like as quickly as they can sort of poop up. They can sort of disappear, which is so frustrating,
Mm-hmm.
especially with lyrics as well. I think I find it easier to remember music actually than words, and so my whole place is littered in pads everywhere. I'm always writing stuff down. And I find that bloody annoying when you get a good lyric, a good rhyme, and it just sort of goes. I
Mm.
find it so annoying. Because I know you was going to, ask me about songwriting, because that leads on to that, I guess.
Exactly. That's the next question right there.
Yeah, nice one, Greg. So, yeah, no, there's no. I know some people do have a set pattern, don't they? They sort of sit there. Yeah, in a word, no. Sometimes it can be like a title, or it can be like a rhyme, a lyric, or it can literally be like a phrase or some chords on the piano or chords on the guitar. So I haven't really. It's always different. I think a title often kicks things off. But I'm writing all the time. You're probably the same, Greg. I'm always writing because I need so much. I mean, some of those films, I did the Hatton Garden Job. I don't know if you know that one, British film about these old boys who crack all these safety deposit boxes in Covent Garden. I think the mastermind was 76. I think it's quite a story. I did that, but I must have written 20 different tunes for that film. I mean, so I'm always writing. The last ones I did I don't know. Do you know the Accident Man films? I just did the second one of that with Scott Adkins. He's in John Wick 4 actually. He stars with Keanu Reeves. That was the latest. But anyway, I'm writing all the time because you need so many tunes and themes constantly. As people say to me, "Oh, what's that for?" What are you doing? I'll just try and store them up. But sometimes, like, sorry, why it's on my mind, the Accident Man. It came out just before the Christmas. I don't know where. I'm sure it's on Netflix, Amazon.
Yeah, the accident man.
Yeah, Accident Man 2. Yeah, so I wrote a couple of tunes to the script actually, Greg. So there's
Really?
like, yeah, I wrote this song called the Buddy Song because there's a real sort of moment. He's an assassin and he gets his fellow assassin to move in. They're like these sort of, there's a hired firm of assassins that make people have accidents. It's like dark humor. It's based on a comic book series. It's very funny, very entertaining. He's brilliant,
Well,
main guy. And so I wrote this. Yeah, so I wrote an old fashioned. Yeah, I wrote it's called the Buddy Song. So I wrote about these two guys, who move in together, and it come out really. It's really funny. And then I wrote a theme actually. Didn't get used called the Accident Man. Then I wrote another one because there's a big fight scene at the end, a big sort of climactic scene. He's a martial arts expert, the main guy, So there's a lot of martial arts. He's a brilliant at fighting scenes. Great guy. So there's a huge fight basically at the end for about 15 minutes. So I wrote this song called Biff Bang Pow. And it's like the sort of Ramones on steroids, you know. And that worked really well. But that was fun, right into the scripts. That was really fun, you know, sort of and picture, script and picture. I had the scenes as well.
Okay.
That was brilliant fun, Greg. I really enjoyed that. So that's like, it's totally different, isn't it? It's like it's not like just writing a song as an artist, you know. It's like it's bespoke. It's written to order, isn't it? It's written to, like, you know, which I really enjoy.
Now that is something very interesting to hear that you're writing in order to go along with the script and the story
Yeah,
and the theme, because I
yeah.
typically like to ask creators, you know, how do you begin a story? I've interviewed a good number of writers and authors, and I'm wondering, how do you begin a song? I mean, do you just sit down at the piano and just start playing what comes to mind? Um, and do you write songs both ways? Do you write them from your original creativity that is uninspired, and also write songs based on a script and a theme? Do you do both?
Yeah, I do, and as I said, I store stuff all the time, on the piano and the guitar, little riffs and chord structures and tunes that can be adapted. I do that. I'm sure most composers do that. You've got your sort of arsenal, your sort of all this sort of stuff there going on. And but yeah, no, with those two songs with Accident Man, yeah, I just literally, Buddy's song was written on the guitar, had this little rhythm, and I got this really catchy chorus. You should check it out. I think it's on Netflix.
Oh, I'm definitely going to. Yeah,
Oh,
after talking to you, that's probably what I'll be watching tonight.
oh, thanks. I think it's
Yeah.
called, the full title is Accident Man: A Hitman's Holiday.
Okay.
I think it's doing really well. It was #1 out there in the States. It's a
Yeah.
really big cult movie. Um, so yeah, so the two that were written to order, yeah, the Buddy song and Biff Bang Pow. You'll see him in the film. But
Okay.
yeah, no, I just they just came to me really. I suppose obviously, like, well, not obviously, but I think there's a lot of luck involved with a lot of these sort of things, and, you know, doing this sort of thing and that. But there is some skill. I mean, and I suppose that, you know, I'm sure just as 50-50 with the luck thing. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing, because I've done a few lectures. I've got a lot of mates who run film music courses throughout the country, universities, and I think you can. I don't know if you can teach people to do that. I mean, maybe sort of steer them if they got, but I mean, how? Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I think that's very different to being a music supervisor, composing for film and writing to picture music. I mean, I think that's I think that's a specific. I mean, there's loads of things I'm pretty crap at, Greg, but that's one thing, one little skill I got, and I don't know how you could. I don't know how. I don't know where they sort of pop in, and you know, they might not even pop in one day, but that is weird, and I love doing it. I like it. I like the pressure as well. I don't mind all that. I don't mind deadlines. I quite like them actually. I think they really sort of, you know, there were some deadlines on the Ray Liotta film and Dangerous Waters, bits and pieces, but I sort of quite like it. It sort of focuses you and puts you in gear. Otherwise, you can just drift on. It's not for everyone. I know I've got loads of musician friends, Greg, who are in bands. They've had #1 records, big artists who can't, who are terrified of doing film and TV. One of my mates, fantastic composer, he's, as an artist, he said to me he has trouble getting to the dentist on time, let alone knowing he has to deliver like 4 tracks by next Thursday. You know, so, you know, we're all different, aren't we? We're all different, mate. You know, and it's
You know,
yeah. Sorry.
you know, that makes me wonder about what writers call writer's block. where they
Yeah,
will go
yeah.
for a period of time where they're unable to create. And
Sure.
I've found it's not uncommon for people to have a trigger that they can use in order to overcome writer's block, or at least stimulate creativity. Do you have a big toggle switch that you can flip and just click that on and then all of a sudden turn on creativity?
That's a good question, buddy. That's a good question. No, not really. Thank God. That's one of the things I don't really suffer from. I probably now have absolute writer's block.
I'm sorry.
The next thing I do. But I've been asked that before, actually. An interview I did a couple of, I was asked about that. I think there's a common thread. And I've got a lot of writer friends. I don't mean music as in writing scripts. And a lot of them seem to suffer from it. I'll tell you, I was talking to a musician friend the other day. I won't say that he's a big writer, big albums, number ones. And he had writer's block. And his thing that he gets on the train. That's what it is. He goes on he goes on these train journeys that he doesn't need to make. And it really, what's the word? Really channels and focuses. It's mainly the
Really?
lyrics. He doesn't take his keyboards and his guitar on the 715 from Paddington, but he with lyrics and ideas, he literally gets on the train. So he goes on these 2-3 hour journeys, and it works for him to the point where he started to tell all his writer friends. So all these now there's loads of these musicians sort of taking these train journeys. Quite funny. There's a joke in there somewhere, isn't there? But but I know what he means. I mean, it doesn't work for me like that. But I find the train very relaxing, therapeutic, very just staring out the window. As long as you're on your own. I mean, obviously, if you've got someone with you or the kids, that's not going to work, is it? What's that? But when you're on your own, it's a really, you do trance out, but don't you, with the scenery and the whole. I totally understood what he meant. Basically, I did because I definitely. And if you're a busy chap or chapess, if busy lady or guy, it's a bit of space, isn't it? 2 or 3 hours on your own, a journey up to Manchester or whatever. You can definitely. So that was interesting. I'll tell you, that's a whole another thing. That Greg, you've opened up a whole. I think you could almost do a book about how people combat writer's block. But more than my musician mates, it's more my writing friends, as in script writing friends. But I know loads of them that suffer from that. They just sort of stare at a blank page, or they. Another friend of mine, when he writes songs, he calls it going fishing. He says sometimes he catches something.
Okay. Now,
Sorry, but yep.
that's really interesting because you just touched on something cross-cultural there. Hopping on the trains. See, you in England have the opportunity to do something like that. Our infrastructure here in the States was not built around trains.
Oh, no.
We do have some,
Yeah.
but we have a car culture.
Yeah.
Now, my wife and I recently spent the month of March in Japan, and that's where I learned that they are a train culture.
Yeah, I've been in the train.
They're probably the main train culture in the world. And then England also has the large train culture that you do, and we do not. Now, yesterday I was talking to an author also down in Los Angeles about overcoming writer's block, and he said, I'll hop in the car and go for a drive. So it's the same thing, what you were just saying, of hopping on the train to be able to step back and open the creativity, or throw that toggle switch, so to speak, to turn on the creativity. Cross-cultural by transportation method there. So
yeah.
so
No,
that's
I like that, Greg. Every country's got it. No, you're spot on. Do you know? You probably know this fact. I've read loads of times that most people listen to music. Where they listen to music now is in the car. Not the case with me, but so the car is a big thing for people checking music. To the point where, Greg, a lot of people, including myself, actually, when we do final mixes, we often go in a car outside the studio. Not a random; it belongs to one of us, and
okay.
and we just break into someone's and play the track. I mean, because people have got these wonderful sound systems in their cars now. We call it the car test. But
Okay.
that's been going on with me and my buddies for the last sort of, I don't know, 5 years. All my friends do that because, as I said, that is the most popular. I'll tell you what I do. It's pretty sad actually, because I grew up with the whole ghetto blaster thing when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, having these big woofers, these big speakers. But I test things a lot on the phone. I often do a mix and I put it on transfer it WhatsApp onto my phone, because I'm so used to listening to the music on my phone. I can tell if like the vocals are too loud, you know,
Hmm.
because there's hardly any bass, is there? But that's pretty crap. Excuse my French. That's a real sad indictment of where we are with sonically these days. It's awful. I mean, I saw a bunch of kids, you know, like all dancing around someone's phone the other day, you know, about 6. I just thought, and the sound is terrible, really. It's so thin. But as I say, I'm so used to listening to music on my phone, I can tell you about a mix straight away. You know, that is sad, and I admit it.
Well,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I'm also a kid of the 80s and the discovery of bass and the car stereos. We had a whole culture, particularly here in California,
Sure.
where the car stereos were unbelievable. There were competitions where they would go and set a coin on the on the roof of the car, and then
Mm.
go ahead and put a song in and let the bass hit to see how high in the air the coin would actually launch from the roof of the car. So yeah, I
I
come from
love
the
that.
car stereo culture and bass, and it is absolutely shocking and disturbing to me that people will listen to music on a phone
No,
without realizing that you are not hearing the whole song. That's only a
no,
tiny piece of the range that you're listening to there, and it just seems to be okay with people.
yeah, no, yeah, no,
Y-
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. But of course, like, you know, invariably, like most characters in the modern world, I've always got my phone usually near me, and so, and yeah, music's exchanged on the phone. I listen to, and I do every single mix I do. I check on the phone, and I said I can tell, and I'm so used to the bass being pretty crap and where it is. I can just tell the mixes, and 9 times out of 10, it's spot on when I say, you know, the hi hats are too loud, the guitar isn't. We just, oh, I really sort of hate myself. It's a bit over the top, but I really, as I say,
well,
find sad part of where we are sonically, you know, these days with music.
yeah, well, that is what it is, and I guess doing a phone test is a really good idea. And I should have done that last week because I had a song where I had someone compose it for me, my friend Gita in Indonesia, and she sent it back to me, and I listened to the song and I told her, "Oh, no, 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 no. After the bass tone, the volume goes down for some reason. You have it equalized wrong." So I sent it back to her. And
Sure.
then she sent it back to me. She's usually flawless. She gets everything that we work together so right the first time that I don't understand how it works that well. And she sent the song back to me. I listened to it again. I'm like, oh man, what is going on here? The After the bass tone hits, then the volume goes down. Well, guess what? I sent it back to her 3 times, and she kept correcting it. And would you believe it was my computer stereo problem? It
Yeah.
was the speaker that I was using. It was flattening out the mid range right after a bass tone, and it had nothing to do with her equalization. She had it right the whole time. And you know how I figured it out? I listened to it on a phone.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
I've been
it,
there. To be honest with you. I bet
yeah,
certain directors I've worked with, and the way they've been listening to the music, you know, they're going to me, you know, there's not enough bass, Lowell, you know, and I say, well, how are you listening to it? And I'm listening on their, you know, invariably listening on their computer,
right,
and I've been with them like, and you know, with their laptop, and the sound is so rubbish, and there is enough bass. I play it to them in the studio. They go, oh yeah, you are right, and
right.
it's just the whole that hasn't happened for a while actually, but it's a process. It's a very collaborative process, isn't it? The whole film thing, you know, you and the director and the editor and the producers. I mean, it's a whole. But it's great when it works. It's fantastic. It's been brilliant on that Dangerous Waters. I'm really excited about that. And most of the journeys I've been on have been good, Greg. You know, they can go pear-shaped or
Now,
one of.
yeah. Now, let me ask you something. When you were younger, did you have any mentors around you that
So,
supported your ear for music?
in a word, no. But
Really?
I would have liked. I'd like to have had one. I worked with a producer who I really idolised. I love Bowie, you know, David Bowie, and I worked. My first band was produced by Mick Ronson, you know, his guitarist, the guy who sort of like was his sidekick, his sideman for many years. That was great. That was brilliant. You know, he was a fantastic guitar. He sadly passed actually, but he was a great guitarist, arranger, piano player. So that was good. He sort of come into my life at some point. He was really good, but that was later on. But through well, I wasn't very old. I was only sort of 19, 20, whatever. But as I started in music on 13, which is some people is quite late, isn't it? But no, when I started, I was a bit on my own, Greg. It was a bit like, oh bloody hell, what's he doing? You know, it was all a bit. Mum and Dad had panic attacks. You know, oh God, the slippery slope. You know, so yeah, I didn't have much support at all, to be honest with you, mate. It was all had to come from the old myself, which is luckily, you know, I was quite a sort of driven character. But I do think about a lot of people who haven't got that, and probably because a lot of musicians are quite sensitive types, aren't they? You know, and it must be terrible if everyone's going, no, you haven't got a chance of doing that or breaking through. I think it's got better now, but I think, you know, when I sort of popped up in the 80s, 90s, and I started, it was still like, oh my God. Ironically enough, there was a lot more money in it, I think, then.
Maybe, maybe so. Did you did you have formal training? Did you go to music
Oh, I
school?
didn't. I didn't. I was quite punk rock about that. That was my early loves when I was a kid at school. I loved a lot of punk music and
Oh
not
yeah.
stuff, but I liked people like the Clash and the Pistols and Slits and that. And ironically enough, I think because my mum, a lot of Motown, a lot of soul music and Stax, I sort of like, and some real classic songwriters. She always has loved Burt Bacharach, and so I've always loved Burt Bacharach and the Carpenters, Diana Ross. So I had this really dual thing going on. I like this sort of punk rock, and I like Motown. So,
Mm.
uh,
Yep.
so there's quite a few characters from my generation like that, actually. I think, which I think is a really good a good sprinkling of music. But yeah, sorry. So I had a bit of the punk rock attitude to it all, Greg. I sort of thought, no, I'm not going to learn how to play formally. I'm not. I sort of I play a lot of stuff on the piano and the guitar. I know all the names of the chords and all that. But I sort of do a lot of stuff. I don't know what exactly I'm doing, and I quite like that. Yeah, but I have worked with strings and I can work with it. I pick stuff out on the piano and the guitar. I get around it, and I can get people to write for me. So I had a bit of that punk rock actually. I'm not going to learn how to write and read music. I know Paul McCartney can't either, can he? A lot of, I mean, look at his beautiful songs. You know, she's leaving home yesterday. So that's my own. I don't know what you would call it. My own stubbornness. I don't really. I do think sometimes I should. I've worked with whole orchestras. I've had people alongside me who can sort of transpose and sort of deal with the musicians, you know, while I write it out, as I said, because I do
Okay.
have, yeah, I do have string arrangement. I can work out string arrangements, as I say, on the piano and guitar. I can't write it down.
Okay. Now, there's something that you when you were mentioning the movie that you worked on recently, which is obviously a major accomplishment, and there are people that could only hope and dream of working
What do you
on a
mean?
movie
The
soundtrack.
Ray Liotta one or the Accident Man? What? The Ray
But
Liotta?
the accident man in
Oh yeah,
particular,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because that's huge. Now, a lot of people may only hope or dream of being able to do something like that. That is a massive accomplishment.
Okay.
Yet there is something that I have found in common with all artists that I have interviewed in the past,
Sure.
which is called rejection, where you present something where you may know in your heart that this is the best song that has ever existed for that scene in that movie,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's rejected or turned down. Have
Mm.
have you ever experienced rejection
Oh,
where something you
yes.
worked on didn't work out? And okay, so
Yeah.
you have. All right. Well, then it remains a 100% with every single person I've interviewed. How do
Yeah.
you deal with that?
Uh, I'm all right about that. Yeah, no, it can be a kick in the. Yeah. Equally, on the other foot, I've had to tell people, big artists with my music supervisor hat on, big artists have written bespoke songs for films, big end credit song, one's coming to mind in a film. Big artist just had a #1 record, I think in both sides of the pond, but certainly in the UK.
Mhm.
He wrote an end credit song for me, and it didn't really work. The director didn't like it, and I had to tell him it's tough. It can be really tough. I know people that have had terrible experiences. I won't say any names. There's a friend of mine, massive artist. She did a load of stuff, and that didn't. Huge artist, but and would never work with film again. See, some people go that way.
Really?
Yeah, huge artist, one of the biggest female artists. She did a lot of work on a big film, 6 months, and they knocked it back. And
Really?
and I really rate her. Everyone. She's a massive. I'd love to work with her, but she said to me, "I will never work in a film."
Wow.
It can go
That's
like that.
yeah.
I've seen it all over the years, Greg. I've been in outside edit suites where
Excuse me.
it's all right, buddy. Composer's had his track knocked back, and he's just been really upset. Said, "Look, I've spent all night working on that piece," and the director said, "Well, um, it doesn't work," and they've gone, and they've got really upset. And my thinking is that guy's not made for this this thing, this career thing. It's so different to writing tracks. So in a word, yes, I've read rejected a film I did recently. I wrote the title track. I had a couple of other tracks in the film. But I wrote a title track which I was really pleased with, but they didn't get used.
Yeah.
But I was upset for about half an hour. I'm all right with that, Greg.
Okay.
I think if you're not, you really shouldn't be doing this, because I think I see it very different as an artist though. When I'm making like tracks or making an album with someone, and it's coming out as, I don't know, as I said, that I've just done now with going with the Alabama 3. So, and he's called Larry Love. So if it's a Larry Love, Lowell Hammond album, and if the label said, "Oh, we hate track 7, could we take that off?" and it was my favourite track, I'd be a lot more miffed, and I'd dig my heels in. And I know Larry would be even more miffed than me, So I see that very different. But when I'm working on films or a TV program, Greg, I think, as someone said, you've got to leave your ego at the door, and I think that's
Okay.
probably. I just don't think, if you can't have, yeah, you're not going to go very far in this. I know massive composers that have had stuff knocked back, massive, like A-list Hollywood, and
Hmm.
it's all been rejected. Some people never come back from it. I mean, some people delivered there's stories, a whole scores delivered, not one scene or track. Someone's delivered a whole score they've spent 6 months on, and the film company or the producers or a mixture of both of them have said, we've got to start again with someone else.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
you might need therapy after that.
Yeah. Well, I I
That's never.
appreciate, yeah, I appreciate you answering that because this interview series is to try to find shared traits between people in the arts and performing arts. And one
Yeah.
of the shared traits that I never imagined to find is this whole rejection thing. And everyone goes through it. But it sounds like to me, you have a little bit of a shield because you said you were upset for about 30 minutes.
Oh,
So
bless you.
so you move on quickly. Is that
Oh,
is that correct?
yeah, I do. I do. Honestly, it
Okay.
sounds like I'm some sort of Zen master.
Okay.
Someone
All
did
right.
say to me the other day, actually, a director, which I thought was a real compliment. But I'm not like, I'm not a machine. I'm not a robot, and I'm quite a sensitive soul. A lot of my music's really sensitive, but I don't know. That's one thing I just don't. I don't know. Like I said, as an artist, very different, very different. But if I'm writing for TV, film, it's a bummer. I did a film a couple of years ago, and I did 6 tracks, I think, for it, but only one got used.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and I was really happy with all of it.
Yeah.
And I expected 3 or 4 to get in there,
Were
but
you given an excuse?
yeah, not really. But they only really liked one. But I was cool. I was a bit upset for, and did it with someone else as well. So I didn't know it was a he. I didn't know how he'd react. He was a younger artist as well, and I thought, oh God,
Mhm.
I think some of the younger bucks can take it really badly, because he
Okay.
hasn't done a lot for. But he was cool, bless him. He's quite a spiritual Zen. I do think you have to be a bit like that, Greg. I think if you're this firebrand sort of like art, I think you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. So
Okay.
no, only one got in out of about 6, 7, and I think I was a bit miffed. That was quite a lot for me, Greg. I think I was down about that for about a day. That's
Okay.
quite.
Little more than 30 minutes on that one
Yeah,
there,
it
huh?
was. I was like, oh dear,
Okay. Okay.
and oh dear. I was. It's quite a it's quite a journey. You do have to be but you set yourself up, don't you, Greg, to fall. You're constantly playing stuff, and if you are a little bit of I don't know what the word is, little violet, a little bit. You're going to struggle because it's quite. If someone just says, "Oh no," and you've put everything, you've channeled everything into this piece of music, you think it's good, and they're just going, not quite right. But
Okay.
yeah, I
All right.
do think
Well,
the shield is a good word, Greg. I do think
okay.
you have to give yourself a bit of a between you and the director or whatever, but because otherwise you're going to be in pieces, aren't you?
Yeah,
You-
that's well, actually, I didn't coin that. I don't recall who it was, but
no,
somebody
I
that I
like
was
that.
speaking with in this interview series, they called it a shield.
Yeah, that
And
is. I think it's spot on,
so I'm
buddy.
right. So I'm referencing what they said. And I was
Oh,
talking to a writer, a screenwriter yesterday, and he
sure.
said that, part of the job is collecting no's. So thank you for sharing your point of view on that. That's yeah, collecting no's.
No, don't
So
be that. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing your point of view on that. That's very important, and I appreciate it. So here's one for you. Were you or are you currently a concert goer or a rave scene attendee?
Oh, bless you. Yeah, no, I'm still out and about, and I love it. I love it. I'm just
Okay.
about to go off to somewhere down in Brighton actually for to see loads of bands. Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I absolutely love live bands, and I still love going to dance parties and dues. As I say, I still DJ. Yeah, no, I'm out there. I think it's really important myself. I mean, not for everyone. A lot of older guys, composers and writers, they're not so. I've got a few musician friends who are not bothered, or they don't really like her. But I like getting out there. Yeah, totally.
Okay. Okay. And what are some of the forms of music or artists that might have inspired you or you just appreciate?
Oh God, so many. I mean, I like
Yeah,
all.
that's
Yeah,
that's
right.
the last broad open-ended question today, I promise
Right.
you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like what you would call indie guitar bands. I like hip hop. I like. I mean, I like rap. I like neoclassical. I like classical. I like electronica, obviously. They call it EDM, didn't they? Because it covers a lot of genres, doesn't it? Drum and bass,
Yep.
rap, house. It's probably a bit of a. I like all those. So right, I'm not the only not having a go at the guys, but I'm not mad on heavy metal. That's not really my. I mean, I love soul and I love Motown and Stax music. I love people like Otis Redding, Marvin Gaye's a massive singer for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love Dusty Springfield. I really like my vocalists. You know, I like bands like Sonic Youth, My Bloody Valentine. I like that sort of like. So loads, but I'm not bonkers on the, heavy metal. I find that a real, you know, and all that. I love the guitar. It's my first instrument, but I don't like all that diddly playing. And the sort of that singing, that sort of yodely singing, and when they were singing about
Yodely, that's good.
yeah, and they were singing about elves and you know and witches and well, I like witches, but you know that whole sort of fairies and never I just oh god, it's just not you know that sort of I love Tolkien, but you know that whole sort of elves and goblins and it's just not my sort of thing, you know. It's just not my thing at all. I mean, people love it. What do I know? I mean, those bands are massive, and they heavy
Yeah.
metal rock bands, you know. I mean, I like Pink Floyd actually. I think they're a bit different though, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't think Pink Floyd is considered a big hair band.
No, no.
No.
I like ZZ Top. I mean, I love. Yeah, I'm not, but I'm not. I don't like slagging anyone or running anyone down. But yeah, what you'd call heavy
Did you say you
metal.
like ZZ Top?
Yeah, I love the sound of their
Okay.
record.
As
That
soon as we're
leg,
as
it's
soon
not
as we're
good.
finished, let me tell you a little. After we finish recording, I'm
Oh
going to
yeah,
tell
you
you
said
a
you
little story.
mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
hey, what do you think of Kraftwerk?
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. I saw a gig of theirs once. I was actually playing at
Oh,
a festival.
what?
Yeah, and they were literally running the gig from their watches. They were just
Are you?
standing, and they were like, I don't know if it was just
What?
a sort of, maybe it was
That
just no. They
I've
seemed,
yeah, I
yeah,
have heard of them doing that before. And
I saw it.
you
I
saw
saw
them
it.
do that?
There's a thing called a tribal gathering, and I was DJing. It was a 3-day festival in the 90s. I nearly booked them for a festival I was curating in Iceland, but that's a whole other story. But I wish I had. But yeah, no, they were just standing there, all with their same sort of uniform, you know, just literally sort of punching. You know, one of them would hit his watch, you know, and the drum machine would cut. Another one would hit his watch and the bass. I don't know if it was just for show, but it was like you know you could have won the Turner Prize with it. It was a work of art. You know, it was hilarious. But obviously, no, they're fantastic. I mean, those early records, I never heard anything like it. I love what was coming out of Germany, and I really like the Georgie Moroder stuff. Obviously, the records with Donna Summer and I think that was a collision, wasn't it? Acid House. That's what it was. A whole collision between sort of Berlin, between Germany and what was going on in Chicago. You know, I just yeah, absolutely love Kraftwerk. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I suspected as much. You and I have a lot in common.
Oh, bless you, Greg. I think you'd be hard pushed to find anyone who appreciated electronic music who didn't like Kraftwerk.
Right, right.
You know,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So recently I had written a song and had my friend Gita compose it, and I uploaded it to YouTube.
Oh
Very
yeah.
proud of it, and I got a copyright notice, and it was immediate. It was something that was triggered by their AI on YouTube, and when I listened to the IP claim of the claimant saying that I had violated their copyright, it was not the same song, and I never heard that other song in my life. I was completely unaware of it, but the melody was similar, and
Gotcha.
in fact it was a little bit spooky. So obviously no creator wants to be accused of copying somebody else or plagiarism or what have you, but it happened to me and I did not do it. And it was a little upsetting. I was probably pissed off about that for a little more than 30 minutes. And so
Yeah.
what I'm wondering is, how do you feel about labels trying to claim copyright on a melody instead of a an actual work itself?
That's interesting, because I've had a couple. I haven't had a claim on any of my pieces of music, but I've had that said before. Like a song, I've done a song, and someone said, "Oh, it sounds really similar to that melody," and I think it is. In your defence, I think it's really easy. It's so because we're there's this wall of music everywhere, isn't there? So things probably go in there, a late night radio or whatever, and it might come out. You might subliminally to take a little melody from something, and you might not. It's also possible. I think this happens that you could actually stumble on the same melody as someone else somewhere else in the world at the same time.
Hmm.
I swear that's happened to me. I've released a tune. Nothing's happened, but it's been similar to another tune that's been released, and I'd never heard that, and I'm sure he or she had never heard me either. I don't know if it's something. I don't want to go all cosmic, but I don't know if there's something sort of goes out in the ether there, goes out in the sort of, it's out there in the sort of whatever, electricity, isn't it? But so what do I think about that? Just it's really tricky, isn't it? So um whether melodies, I don't
Do,
know. It's a really tricky one, isn't it?
yeah. Do you
I don't
think that
know.
the labels should be allowed to claim IP on a melody instead of a finished work?
Oh dear. I mean, yeah, I find that a whole minefield. I know I'm a music supervisor, so I'm very conscious of. My big thing's always been samples. It's not so bad now, but in the 90s, well, not 90s, the early 2000s, still a lot of samples going on. I remember
Mhm.
having tracks out when there was literally in post on a film. I remember, you know, because yeah, you could have get sued. So if I had a massive tune and I really like the melody, and someone else had completely ripped it off, I don't think I'd be very happy. But I'd like to have a conversation with them to find out. I suppose you can't tell from a conversation, but I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I know people. I know people that have sued other people and been sued over tunes that have been lifted. I can think of a case where someone did a tune in the 80s and then a big band in the 90s lifted it and they went to court. And the guys, a couple of cases I know, the people, that's what I mean, the people who have lifted the tune have admitted it.
Mhm.
Said they were massive fans. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And they just relented. That hasn't gone to court and they've just gone, yeah, you can have that. They've done a deal basically. So
Right.
that's really sweet. I know. See that you don't get hear about that. That's the sort of nice most of the cases I know have been like that. Because often
Okay.
people they're fans of a band. I'm thinking of someone now, a band released a single like early 80s. They're a massive fan. They've literally ripped them off and they've come clean. So, but that doesn't answer your question at all. I don't.
N-
Oh,
No, it's okay. I that's a
I'd have to. I saw your questions. I'll have to think more about that.
okay. We can let's
Just
go
said,
back to that. Let's go
yeah,
back to that the next time we talk.
yeah,
I
yeah.
had I had asked you for 1 hour and we are approaching that. And I
Yeah,
have just a couple of more questions. Is it okay if I ask a few more? Okay. Do you think that the world is running out of melodies? Do you think that every melody has already been copyrighted, or is there any point in anybody continuing to write songs?
Interesting thing. But you know what though? I'm not being funny. I've read. I mean, I was only I was just about born then, but I've read interviews with people in the 70s, and people have been saying this for ages, for years. I've read so many people have said this, and still people keep. So, in a word, no,
Okay.
definitely. But I know where you're getting at, and there's
I'm
probably,
really, really glad your answer to that is no.
yeah, no, because there's obviously so many permutations of chord structures and melodic tunes and how notes go. I totally get that, but I guess that's that's a really interesting. That's a fantastic question, actually, Greg. But like you, I really hope not as well.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, AI is going to throw up a whole load. I'll tell you what, really quickly, my son, bless him, a bit egotistical, he popped me into AI at Biogs, and he did a 50-word one on me and a 150-word one on me. I don't know what, he's got some AI app on his phone, my young
Yeah.
15-year-old, and it was bloody brilliant. I mean, it was so flattering. But interestingly enough, Greg, it got things wrong.
Mm.
You know, it
Oh,
made,
I'm sure.
yeah. So sorry, but the AI is going to throw up a lot of this. A lot of what you that question.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah.
to throw up a
It's
lot of the things that you've asked me, actually. But sorry, that
yeah.
was just. But it got things wrong. But it was very
Hmm.
flattering, very interesting. I'd like to see whatever some of my other friends. I mean, imagine if it was really negative. I mean, maybe that doesn't happen, but and
Oh,
it was.
it does happen. Yeah, it definitely happens. I've been working on I'm a tester for an AI
Sure.
project right now,
Oh,
and
here you
it's
go.
actually
Okay.
it's really disturbing. At least it is to me. And it AI is dangerous, and it needs to be kept under control.
Totally, totally. Because there was one artist, big artist, that said I'd work with, which I haven't, who I really like. And I thought, God, this is weird.
Well, isn't that disturbing? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean? Do
Yeah.
you see what I mean? It's just, where did that come from? Where did
Right.
that come from? You know, well, we know where it come from, but it's wrong, isn't it? It's
Hmm.
wrong. So I'm beginning to think if they got me wrong, they're probably getting everybody wrong, aren't they?
Well, it's like the song that I wrote that got triggered for copyright. Where I had never heard of that other song in my entire life. Uh, I I'm not smart enough to actually remember a melody and then go write it down at some time in the future. It's I just I can't. I have to read everything, and it is disturbing that AI can get things wrong. I was watching an article about a who it was a journalist who was testing AI as part of his job. The man was just at work doing an article that he had been assigned, and
Right.
AI convinced him that he needed to get a divorce. And I was reading that. I was I was reading that thinking, man, what in the world? You're not dealing with a human, a cognitive human, uh, with AI. And I was thinking that is really disturbing. Do we really want to let AI continue in the direction it is without
I,
any checks and balances? I don't think so.
Exactly. I think we've got to be really, well, we all know that. I think we've got to be really careful with this.
Yeah.
And musicologists, is that what you call them? You know, the guys who check if people have stolen other people's melodies and tunes and lyrics, blah, 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 blah. Are they going to start using AI? And is it going to throw up loads of mistakes? And I mean, like I said, these biogs were wrong. And they appeal to my ego because they made me look wrong. But they're wrong, you know, and it's just like, oh dear. So are people going to start using these to check on someone? Because obviously they use things like IMDb and stuff. Because anybody can write anything. I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't think AI maybe itself isn't the problem. It's just whose hands it is going to be in and what, because it's obviously, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to bring power to certain people, isn't it? And all that power invariably, as we know, could be abused. And
Mhm.
I'm sure it bloody will be by some certain people. So I just think we've got to be really careful with this whole thing, you know, and we seem to be a little bit like rabbit in the headlights, don't we? We just, oh, what's,
Yeah.
um, it's,
Well, we obviously agree on the fact that it definitely needs to be kept in check. In fact, this is a good topic for us to follow up on the next time we talk.
yeah, no,
Uh,
I can see it popping into my world a bit. Um, yeah, not so much with the composing, although I'd probably get into that one as well, but certainly with the music supervision. But then, I don't know, they. Sorry, I get work. People like the guys, for instance, who work a Hatton Garden job. The director wanted to work with me because he liked these other films I'd done. Sort of a Football Factory, Bronson Business, Sweeney. That's why he came to me. So AI, they're not going to go to AI because it's got no track record. So I think people were still going to want the human element. I'm sure. I think we're way off before they start composing soundtracks and doing music supervision, but I'm sure it's coming down the line somewhere along the line. But
yeah, well, we can only hope. That's actually reminds me of, I guess, what was it? Maybe in the 80s when robots started to become more practical. I think Japan was probably further ahead than anyone
yeah,
else
yeah,
in the world
no,
when it came to
definitely.
robots. But back when robots still seemed like a laughable, imaginable thing, I remember there being a prediction that robots were going to replace humans for common tasks such as picking up the trash,
Yeah,
trash trucks, which are
yeah,
now robotic, or some complex things such as building cars. And people were laughing, going, no, there is no way that
yeah,
robots are going to replace people. Well, they have. Cars are now built by robots, and people do not ride around on the back of a trash truck picking up trash cans anymore. It's all robotic. So, I really hope that AI does not replace a lot of humans, because I'd rather hear a song written by Lowell Hammond than
I'll probably hear some.
than a computer.
Uh, I'm with you. I think
Yeah.
people, yeah, I think, yeah, I'm sure they'll be able to do it, but I think people want that person, don't they? They want to interact, but there has to be some reins on this. There has to be in check, and also it needs to be unified. As in, I don't want to go deep, but I'm not a conspiracy character actually, but with the COVID thing, it was all like every country was every man for himself. So I suspect AI might be similar. I think that is the danger. I think all the countries need to have a unified uh, take on AI. It needs to have some sort of world body that everybody trusts. But I bet we won't be able to agree on nothing. You can imagine, can't you? China will go on their own, Russia will go on their own, Europe, America, and so that is the problem. This is the problem. I think this is going forward. I think for all these big things like migration, climate change, AI, I just think this is a real problem of the way the world. We can't seem to agree on bloody anything, can we? And you saw it with the COVID thing. That response could have been so much more better if we'd all had there'd been a world response. But
Mhm.
it was just rubbish, wasn't it? Because they just grounded all the planes in a certain country. They could have kept it in one country, but we can't agree on anything. This is a problem. So yeah, so I'd like to. That's my little rant for the day. I'd really like to see the. I think we need to, but everyone's got agendas. It's a real bloody problem, So AI, I can see everyone going on their own path. Can't
Yeah.
you? I can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. It would make sense. It would make sense. And
A unified response and all work on it together. It's such a shame because we worked on it. It'd be amazing. I think that is the way forward. But we've got all these little. It's yeah. The world. It seems a bit more broken than I think 20 years ago we were a bit more together. Anyway, but I just that's my thing. I just think
okay.
we need to work together because there's so many great minds. We need all the best Chinese professors and doctors and Russian and American and British. We need all to work together. It's amazing. It's pretty splintered, but hopefully, there'll be some. I think the bar's gone very out with a leader. We need some really cool people, don't we? If
Right.
we need more Gandhis and Nelson Mandelas, and there's some great people, but the bar got very low a few years ago. So
Awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully for the future, and more women. I think more women. I think women probably a lot less likely to start wars, etc. Aren't
Awesome. Okay. That's classic right there, Mr. Hammond. Thank you. All right, so shifting gears here before we wrap up, throw out a couple of things that you've worked on in the past that you're proud of.
Oh, bless you. Well, I suppose the first film I ever did was called Southwest 9, 2001, directed by Richard Parry. So the first is always exciting, isn't it? I sort of stumbled in there. There's been some real cultural films, I think, that have been, the Football Factory film, got some great music. It's big. I love football, so that's a big thing here, certainly in the UK. Obviously, America, not so, although
Different type of football. They call it soccer here for some
yeah,
reason.
exactly. It's All Gone Pete Tong's become a bit of a classic clubbing film. It's All Gone Pete Tong, which I was very involved in, not just the music, getting locations and everything, extras and people working. That was a whole bit. And then sitting down with the director and telling him loads of funny stories about the whole clubbing scene. So It's All Gone Pete Tong, that was a real personal one for me. What films have done?
Did you say the clubbing scene?
Yeah, the whole electronic. You should check that film. It's very good. A Canadian director, actually, Michael Dowse.
And what's the name of that again?
It's All Gone Pete Tong. A mad title. It's All Gone. Pete Tong's a big DJ based here in the UK, well, and LA. Pete Tong, P-E-T-E, Tong, T-O-N-G.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna check that out.
Remember it went we all went over to Toronto for the film festival and it won out there. It's great. You should check that one.
Okay.
That's a big one in my sort of world, the sort of DJ club. It's really big worldwide. It's a real big cult film. There's been a few sort of, just thinking of my favourite. Bronson's a very rated film. Bronson, Tom Hardy's sort of breakout movie. Nicholas Winding Refn, great Danish director. I did Pusher 2 with him too as well. It's fantastic. There's been so many. I mean, I did a film called Obey, won the best cinema photographer. We all went out there to New York for the Tribeca, Robert De Niro's festival. That was an experience. So yeah, there's quite a bag there. I think I've done about 40 films. I'm still enjoying it. I love the last one I did, Accident Man 2, as I said, A Hitman's Holiday, come out just before Christmas. That's a cracking right. And now just this week finished Dangerous Waters, Ray Liotta's last film. Excellent director, John Barr, fantastic guy, really creative, and that is a big one for me. The Goodfellas. I mean, Ray Liotta's a huge hero of mine. So you probably told me when I was a teenager I'd be doing the music for his last film, I'll probably biting your hand off, Greg.
Well, you've got a long string of accomplishments.
Yeah.
That's so. Wrapping up here, I was going to ask you what's a day in the life of Lowell Hammond like, and you touched on it a little bit, where I asked you if music is the first thing you think of when you wake up and the last thing you think of before you go to sleep. So what is there? Do you have any crazy hobbies like skydiving or stamp collecting or anything? Is there anything else you do other than music?
Well, I love watching and still play football, so I love that. My little one, basketball as well. I played basketball with him. But the average day, it depends actually, because so I have the creative days I call them, like in the studio writing music. So I'm not one of these. I sort of like get up 7:30 in the morning, go to bed sort of 12, 1 at night, trying to keep. When I was just doing the music, I did end up almost, be working to 5, 6 in the morning in the studio. I was trying to, but the trouble is with that, you're on a different frequency, you're different to everybody else. So I'm trying to get back, and so I'm dealing with this sort of, the rest of the world as opposed to being in my little musical bubble. So tend to record, sort of from 9, 10 to like 6, 7. Night and have some food and that. So so I have these sort of musical creative days. Then I have days where I'm doing, especially on the music supervision, days of doing paperwork and contracts, because I deal with all that. licensing music in. So I deal with record companies and publishers and artists. So I oversee that, all the contracts, because obviously you have to license the music from the record companies and publishers, or artists direct if they're not signed to anyone. So I deal with all that. And do, you know, like with Dangerous Thoughts, I'll be zooming there's two producers, Suzo, who's based in LA. They came over to the UK for the film, The Post, and Ben, the other producer, who's based in the UK. So yeah, dealing with them on a daily basis, really, Greg. You know, and the director obviously making creative decisions. And so sometimes, Jesus, there was one track we was trying to get for Dangerous Waters, one scene, and I must have played the director 70, 80 tunes, which is cool. Yeah, it's literally. But I don't mind that. And he loves music, John, so it's cool. But so I put the word out. So that's all quite time consuming. So I'd go to, there's obviously only 3 big record labels now, Universal, Warner's, and Sony. Now we lost, EMI was the last British one, wasn't it, when a few years ago. I love dealing with all the indies as well, Ninja Tune and Domino, all those guys, Rough Trade. So, and then smaller ones, and Submarine Cat, really cool indie, which I do quite a bit of work with. Fantastic label, Submarine Cat. I've got the Alabama 3, and so, but I love giving them a go as well, the indies. So I put word out, and then the music comes back, and so I'll say, you know, we need a scene for like the lead actress. She's in the car outside her mother's house, listening to it on the radio, and she's like 25 years old, so it would be what she'd be listening to. I put the word out, and all this music comes back. I was selling someone the other day, and probably 70, 80 tunes came back in one day.
Wow.
So some directors will want me to smash it down to like about 5, 6. In fact, a lot of them. But John, bless him, he loved it all. He loved listening to this. I gave him the lot. And he came back with this band, really good band, called Girl Scout. And they were like a new young band from Scandinavian, actually, from Norway, I think. But my buddy was looking after them, and he found them for us. So we definitely like putting work. I love doing that, because you never know what's going to come back, Greg. It's really exciting, you know. And it's good to give the smaller artists, because I did put word out to the big 3. Actually, they did go through Universal. There was a little label. It went through Universal, the record side, but the publishing was a smaller. It's great to give everyone a chance. You never know what you're going to find. And that was a new band. So it's a great break for them, you know.
Okay. So, do you have a favorite charity?
I do work with the Rio Ferdinand Foundation. I don't know if you know of Rio Ferdinand. He was a big footballer here. He's retired now. He's in his early 40s, but he played for West Ham, Leeds, and Manchester United. Probably best known for Manchester United. He played there 10 years, and he was England captain, centre back. So he's got a charity. So I do a lot of work with him. Yeah, I love work.
You said it's Leo Ferdinand?
Rio, as in the
Rio. I'm sorry, Rio.
As in the Brazilian city, RIO.
Right.
Rio Ferdinand.
Okay. Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah, and he's from this part of the world, Peckham, South London, and guy that made good. And he's a good guy, puts a lot back. And I work with a guy called Gary Stannett, who's the CEO. Top guy, loves his music. I've done songs for them, like with big artists like Heather Small, where we've donated a part. And we did a festival together. So we're just about to do a big whole project, actually. I'm going to do a film, a 15, 20-minute film with the guy. Has gotten a fantastic female director, Tracy Larkham. You'll hear, really big, successful UK director over here, Tracy Larkham. You'll be hearing lots about her. She does big TV. She's crossing over into the world of film, so she's going to direct, working with all these kids. I say kids, teenagers, early 20s. So yeah, it's definitely the Rio Ferdinand Foundation.
Rio Ferdinand. Okay,
yeah,
we're going to go.
Love working with those guys.
Okay, we're going to put a link for people that are watching this on YouTube. Just look down here. We're going to put a link there to this charity. So you know, I was you just touched on my next here, and probably one of the final questions. We're almost done. If you're hanging in there, I ran over the hour. Is it still okay?
It's fine, Greg.
Yeah, okay. All right. We're gonna wrap here real quick. And then I'll tell you the story about ZZ Top. So Okay, so we, I, I'm trying to keep that under wraps, but I'm going to tell you that story here real quick. So, all right, we did the charity. Okay, your favorite charity, got that one. And I was going to ask you, what are you working on now that you're excited about? And you just did touch on that.
Yeah, I've literally, that's a new project with the Rio Ferdinand Foundation. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, there's a zombie vampire film. I just got the script off. It sounds really exciting. It's shooting on the South Coast. Uh,
Okay.
Great writer David Quantick. That's going to come. What else? Oh, a really good film. My friend Emma Croft has directed, called Invincible. So I'll be. She wants me to do the music on that, and it's already all shot. She's just done another pass on it, another cut. Invincible. It's hilarious. It's a real great snapshot of sort of working class Britain, north of England. It's got everything: laughter, tears. Emma Croft. No, it's brilliant
Okay.
to work with female directors. I'd like to work with more. Actually, it's fantastic. So yeah, some great female directors there for you, ones to watch.
Okay. So now, when you're creating this music based on the films, obviously you are able to see the films before they're released because they don't have the music yet, right?
Sure, sure.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got
wow.
to first in a script stage, get a script.
Okay. Okay.
And
Wow,
start,
interesting.
and then I get the film. Yeah, but literally, it might have temp tracks, little bits where they might be sort of nudging you in the right direction, so they're overlay the director or the editor or both. They overlay to give you a tone. You know, that they pick tracks from their favorite, well, not their favorite soundtracks, tracks from other films that they think um,
Okay.
to give you a steer. And sometimes I do that as well to get everybody in, to get the director, editor, everybody on the same page. I'll throw in some stuff to give everyone a tone, a vibe, so we all know where we're going, and then I'll get to work.
Okay, that's interesting. Have you ever seen something called Doctor Who?
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think I told you my close friend Tania Miller, a really good actress. She was in it for a year.
Who was that?
Tania Miller,
Tania Miller?
yeah, actress. Yeah, T a little comma NIA Miller. One of my closest friends, great actress. She's just done The Peripheral for Amazon Prime. The Haunting of Bly Manor. She won a big award, won Best British Actress last year for that. The Haunting of
Really?
Bly. She was in it for a year. Yeah,
Okay. In Doctor Who.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that name out. It sounds really familiar.
Check
Um,
it out. She's
now
great.
something that I've wondered about with Doctor Who is that uh it used to have really big band music, like from a composer Murray Gold, for example. It used to have that big band music, and it seems like there was a trend in television, and not just Doctor Who, but all television, where it shifted to where instead of having dramatic music like that, everything became very quiet for the last couple of years with a lot of bass tones, where
Right.
every once in a while you would hear just a couple of piano keys or something, and it seems as if Doctor Who's shifted in that direction. Um, have you detected that type of a shift in music in television programs?
I'd say a big shift, which obviously, well, not obviously, but it favoured me and helped me because I love minimalist piano. I sort of very influenced by Eric Satie and the productions of Brian Eno, and as you probably know, I've done
Mhm.
records with his younger brother Roger. But I remember the TV series Broadchurch a few years ago with Ólafur Arnason, the Icelandic composer, and I noticed there was a massive move away from the big sort of bombastic sort of 50, 60 piece orchestra
Mhm.
and very much minimalist piano, maybe a little chamber, maybe a viola, a couple of violins and a cello, little string quartet piano. It all became much more minimal, away from the big orchestra, which really suited me, my own music, and also my musical tastes. But that was a big shift, rather than people saying, "Oh, can you?" So, which was sort of music to my ears, because I have worked, as I said, I've done a couple of films with 69 people. I've recorded with the Prague Philharmonic. I've done all that, but that's not I do like it. I do like
Mhm.
it, but I do prefer more minimal, I call it personable. I like that, almost like you're having a conversation with the listening to the viewer. I love that with just the piano and just piano, maybe one synth, a moog, or a little chamber. So that was a massive shift. I'm not going to run down any composers, but that whole big in your face, I'm not mad on that. I
Okay.
appreciate it, but it's not my. So that was a big shift. I couldn't tell you when that happened. Broadchurch. When did that pop up? That probably happened about sort of, I don't know, 10 to 15 years ago. 10 to
Okay.
15, that was a massive shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very
And also,
interesting.
and also electronic music started coming much more in to the game, away from like the big, as I said, the big 50, 60 piece orchestras, live strings. They definitely, you had people doing scores, with all programmed basically electronic, so that was a miss. And Doctor Who, like you said, with the electronic and what Victoria Derbyshire, what they do in the BBC workshops and all that, they were real pioneers, and it was
Mhm.
pretty different. It's that film, Georgia Moroder scored that film I loved, about the set in Turkey, the Parker film. It was really outrageous at the time to have this electronic score. It's probably the first one. It's a film, I saw it as a kid. It's a brilliant one, loads of awards. Oh God, I can't remember. Set in
Okay.
Turkey. This guy he's an American guy. He gets caught trying to bring loads of drugs back through on the plane, gets caught, and he spends a lot of time in a Turkish jail and he escapes. Brilliant. There's a great scene in a market where he escapes from the police and they're trying to find him. These police are running around this Turkish market in Istanbul chasing the main protagonist. And you've got this electronic score. I'd never heard anything like it before. This will be in the mid-'80s, I think. I was only a young buck. I was watching it on TV when I was about 13. It had a big effect on me.
I
Uh,
want to know what that is. Yeah. As soon as you think about that, or
yeah,
excuse me.
it was massive. Because everyone's like, my God, they're using Georgia Moroder, who did Donna Summer and all this electronic, this German composer. Because I think it's Alan Park, British director.
Yo.
I'll send that to you, DM
Mm,
it on Twitter. But that
yeah.
was a massive cultural shift. I've never heard anything like it. So you had an action piece scene, and it was all electronics. It was all synthesizers.
Okay.
It,
I want to. Yeah. I definitely want to hear that. If that
it's
made
like,
that much of an impression on you.
oh God, yeah, I was about 13, and
Okay.
it turned up on TV. I probably should have been in bed, and my parents were to bed. And I was sneakily watching this film. So, as I say, it won loads of awards. I think they won an Oscar for it. Won Midnight Express. Is that the title? I think it's Midnight Express.
Okay.
Just come to
Okay.
me.
Well, we'll
Yeah,
we'll find out exactly, and we're going to put a link to that down below here.
right.
Um, so you did mention Twitter. That's where I ran into you. Where do you like to be found online? I guess fans can interact with you on Twitter.
Twitter's fine. Yeah, I think I'll just
Okay.
stick to one or two, because I've
Okay.
got friends that are about 6, and they never leave their phones.
Right. Okay. Okay. So was there anything that I did not ask you today that you wish I had?
Oh, I think we've got the whole life story
Yeah.
in there.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this has been really enjoyable. I am so glad
Thank
to have
you.
had an opportunity to meet you,
Likewise,
and
Greg.
let's keep in touch.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
this who what somebody I think we have a mutual friend. Do you know someone named Helen Sterling-Lane?
I don't know her, but we
Okay,
definitely no.
she's on Twitter.
We've got mutual friends. She's an actress, isn't she? And kindly,
Yes, she is a British
yeah.
actress and or actor, and I interviewed her, and she had sent me a link to your music, which I appreciate her doing that. I guess she knows that I like music, and that's how I ran into you was on Twitter. One of our Twitter friends introduced us, and I'm really glad. Thank you, Helen.
It's
So
great. It's great.
yeah,
And we'll maybe talk again later in the year. I mean, we
okay.
can maybe after Dangerous Waters comes out in August, we can have a chat about it.
Okay, let's do that. Let's talk again in 6 months or a year, and then I will have seen Dangerous Waters by then,
Yeah, yeah.
and then we'll catch up on AI. Hopefully AI hasn't gotten out of control by then.
Yeah.
So okay, so last question. For anybody young or old that is going to reference this video in the future,
Sure.
someone who admires your talent, your success, and your achievements,
Oh, yeah.
somebody wanting to learn from you, uh, what is the best piece of advice that you could give them?
Oh, best piece of advice. Well, obviously, you need some self-belief. What, as a composer, to compose, to write music and stick with it. Is that what you mean, really, Greg?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
To become, let's say somebody wants to become successful as a music composer for movies.
Oh, yeah. I'd say, well, obviously, well, not obviously, but I'd watch lots of films, which I
Mhm.
still do. I know it sounds weird, but but yeah, I've met people who work in record companies who don't even like music, and I've met
Really? That's terrible.
no, it's terrible. And I remember a record company wanted to sign me. I went in there and they were all watching a cookery program on TV. All the people, I walked out. I'm not going to sign to you guys. Equally, a film company I was based at. I remember people who just, I don't know, who just, sorry, I just think, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think you need to. I'd watch loads of movies. I'm always watching films, and a lot of the people I really rate and I like their work and I enjoy working with, but they're real. I know it just sounds ridiculous, but they're real cinephiles, and I think it's fantastic to absorb all this because you're going to get influences and get inspired. I mean, you could never watch everything. I mean, you'd never leave your flat or your house, but I would say like a sponge. I think we're very much like that, creative people. I would just watch loads of films and try and get your own voice as well. Try and get, I mean, influences is cool. I mean, I've got loads of influences, but equally try and get. I think you need a bit of self-determination and just stick with it and keep watching films and getting inspired and influences and try and find an original voice. I think that is, if you can just, that is the thing as well.
Okay, very good. Mr. Hammond, thank you very kindly. And I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for running over the hour here.
It's all right, but
You're very, very interesting to speak with, and your time is appreciated. Everybody, if you have enjoyed this, learned something from Mr. Hammond, check him out, support him, go buy an album of his. We're gonna put a link down below where you can listen to some of his music, and thank him for his time and in educating us today. Thank you, Mr. Hammond.
thank you so
And
much, Chris.
yep, and we'll talk to you in a bit, as long as AI hasn't destroyed society yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Take care, man. Oh, stick around. I got a story to tell you.
I look
And to
forward to that.
everyone, okay, to everyone else, good night. Over and out from San Francisco.
Thank you.